And this week's quote comes from Mark Twain, an author you might have heard of once or twice in your life. But he said this: "The secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret to getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable tasks, and then starting on the first one." It's like that. It's almost like, how do you eat an elephant, Mike? One bite at a time, right?
one bite at a time. And I was really struggling at first until I had an epiphany about how I was going to relate this quote to our show. And especially after everything that has happened in the market this year, heck, this week, Matt, a lot of people are concerned. And, after a market crash, getting started can feel impossible. Fear, uncertainty, and regret can actually paralyze us, making recovery itself seem impossible and very, very overwhelming. And that's where Mark Twain's wisdom comes in. Okay. Today, I want to show you how his simple principle applies to rebuilding your financial future after a downturn. Because the truth is, financial recovery isn't about making one big move. It's about taking smart, steady steps forward. So let's dive in. The first part of his quote said, "The secret of getting ahead is getting started." Well, after a market crash, many people feel frozen, and it's because of the fear, the uncertainty, the regret over lost investments that can lead to inaction. But the key to recovery is not dwelling on what happened, but instead taking decisive action. And as an example, instead of focusing on those past losses, you need to focus on what you can control, which is reassessing your financial plan, cutting any unnecessary expenses, or adjusting your investment strategy. Okay. The second part said the secret to getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable tasks, and then starting on the very first one. Well, because a financial crisis can feel overwhelming, that makes it real tempting to either do nothing and hope that it just goes away, or take drastic, emotionally driven actions like pulling out of the market entirely. Instead, breaking recovery into smaller, digestible steps, right, make the process much less daunting and more effective. So let's talk about some of those steps that we can take. We said assess the situation. Well, that means you need to review your portfolio. What assets do you still hold? How have they been impacted? You need to understand your cash flow. Do you need to adjust some of your spending? Do you need to increase some of your savings? Do you need to pay down debt a little bit more aggressively? And then it's a good time to, give yourself a checkup from the neck up when it comes to your risk tolerance. Has your comfort level with investing changed a little because of recent downturns? It might be time to rebalance some of those investments, right? If your portfolio is out of alignment with your long-term strategy, rebalancing just makes sense, right? And that may mean reallocating assets to reflect your new risk tolerance, especially given market conditions. So if you panicked and sold investments at a loss, then you need to consider a structured plan to be able to re-enter the market rather than just waiting indefinitely. And then obviously, at least it's obvious to me, you should probably adjust your spending and your savings plan. So if necessary, cut those discretionary expenses to free up more money for savings or more money for investment opportunities. And then you should maintain or even increase your contributions to your retirement accounts while asset prices are low. They're on sale, okay? And that allows you to take advantage of future market rebounds. So historically, market crashes have always been followed by recoveries. And if you're in a position to invest, now might actually be an opportunity to buy those undervalued stocks or assets at a much lower price than they were even 3 months ago. And then there's the tried and true dollar cost averaging, which is investing gradually over time, which will help you reduce risk and avoid trying to time the market. But above all, seeking professional guidance, right? If you're unsure about your next moves, consulting with a financial professional to create a strategic recovery plan just makes sense. And just like Twain's quote says, the hardest part is getting started. But once you take that first step, no matter how small, you start to build momentum. And instead of seeing financial recovery as an insurmountable challenge, treat it as a step-by-step process, focusing on steady, disciplined actions that will get you back on track. The market crash may have been out of your control, but how you recover from it is entirely up to you, Matt.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I love that because, it's the things, and this is true in life in general, but it's very true when we're talking about finances and money, especially the financial markets. You can't control what happens in the markets, but you can control how you respond to it. And, whether the markets are up or down, the way that you react to whatever is going on is going to be paramount. And one of the key things there that you've mentioned, Mike, in kind of using a little bit different words, was not to react, but to sort of take that step back and say and assess the situation first, and then go through those different steps to make sure that you don't take any sort of reactionary measures to completely upend your financial life and then make the situation all that much worse.
Yeah. We've talked in the past about the difference between reacting and responding, right? Reacting to things has kind of a negative connotation. Think of a reaction to medication, right? Normally not good, but if you respond to medication, puts you in a much, much better situation. So that same analogy can be played out in the financial crisis that we're seeing ourselves, go through at the moment.
Yeah. Nuclear reaction is another one that I can think of that's not quite so good.
Not positive.
Yeah, no, don't want to be doing that. So yeah, absolutely. And folks, there at sort of the end of that little section of the show, Mike was talking about you got to take that first step. Sometimes it's the most difficult to take. A lot of the time it's the most difficult to take, but the first step is actually really easy, and it can be anyway if you just make up your mind to do it. And all you got to do is just go to moneymatterswithmike.com. It's moneymatterswithmike.com. That's the website. And there, just click on the contact page and send Mike a message. You can ask him questions, or you can say, hey, I want to sit down for that initial consultation. It's free of any cost and any obligation to continue on. You're only going to work together if you mutually decide that it's the best thing for you to be doing. All right. So moneymatterswithmike.com is the website. You can also give him a call, 704-560-1573, 704-560-1573 is that number. And of course, Mike, the kind of the first step that you go through with people after you kind of get to know them a little about their situation, is what we call a SMART inspection of their plan. And that's really such an important thing, because to know where you're going, you've got to know where you're starting from, right?
Yeah, no doubt. For every listener that reaches out, as well as all of our clients, right? We review each and every single one of your accounts. So if you have an IRA, if you have a 401k, if you're a federal employee and have a thrift savings plan, anywhere that you hold assets, including cash, we can review all of those things and assess your current account balances as well as your fee structures. And then we'll ask questions and answer questions, I should say, as far as how much you've been able to save for retirement, what you're currently paying in fees for the management of those funds. And many people that we work with are absolutely surprised, shocked, right, by the amount of fees that they're currently paying. They had no idea that they were actually paying what they were paying, because they thought they were paying X, but with a lot of those hidden fees that are layered in, we can point those out. We'll review your rates of return over the past 12 months, the past 3 years, the past 5 years, and see if you're happy with them, or perhaps you're thinking you could have done a little bit better. And then we're going to determine the answer to the question whether or not you have an income gap, which is not good, or an income surplus, which is much more favorable. We'll x-ray any type of pension plans you have, including annuities, and determine the best personal pension options that are currently available for you to help you protect your hard-earned savings. And then, this is a big one, we'll determine if you have a tax problem. A lot of people are overly exposed in tax-deferred accounts, which means that you have a ticking tax time bomb that could explode on you in retirement, which is never a good thing, because we want to kick Uncle Sam out of your retirement plan. Having him as a retirement partner is not beneficial to you. And of course, we can provide you with a Social Security maximization report that will show you how to best maximize your Social Security earnings in retirement, because we do have some tips and tricks that'll help you take advantage of everything that you're entitled to so that you can enjoy some additional income in retirement. And like Matt said, all you have to do is call 704-560-1573 or go to moneymatterswithmike.com to take advantage of the complimentary offer today, because we love helping and working with our listeners, Matt.
Absolutely do. And that's really what the show is all about, is being of help and of service to the listeners. So, hey, folks, once again, that website, moneymatterswithmike.com, and the number 704-560-1573. You can reach out today.